You're listening to the Star Trek Wars podcast. My name is Jordan. Tonight we will be reviewing the 10th and final episode of Discovery's 5th season, the finale. Joining me, it will be my co-hosts, Jason and Amanda. Of course, it's the 5th season, so why not introduce a whole new cast of characters on this journey? Jason, so glad you could be here.
Jordan, it's me, Jeremy. I haven't seen you in ages.
Oh, you're back. Thank you for your 2-second cameo.
My, how time lets fly.
And speaking of old guests, Joselyn's here. It's been since, what, episode 5?
It's been so long. Jeremy stole my old voice gag, so I'll just say that I'm...
Just whistled. Jordan loves that.
I'm really sorry. I've been such a Detmer the last couple episodes, and yeah, I'm just so happy that you had me back for the finale, unlike Detmer.
Joselyn, I'm sorry we tasked you with dragging our old episodes to the archive, but it's good to have you back here in the finale.
They were so heavy. There's too much interference. The transporter wouldn't work because of the rocks.
So today we'll be reviewing Star Trek Discovery's Season 5, Episode 10, the finale, Life Itself. It's written by Kyle Jarrow and Michelle Paradise, directed by Olatunde Onsunsami. Trapped inside a mysterious alien portal that defies familiar rules of time, space, and gravity, Burnham must fight Maul and the environment itself in order to locate the progenitor's technology and secure it for the Federation. Hey guys, so it's finale time. We haven't talked about a finale in a long time, but we did just have Picard Season 3's finale, but don't get to do this very often. So I'm kind of interested to hear. I have not heard anything from you yet, Jeremy, on what your thoughts are on the finale.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear what you guys have to think too. I think this was an episode that was clearly divided into two parts, maybe even more than we thought. We knew there was going to be. It was filmed as a finale, and then they were granted some time to film a coda to add an ending to it. I don't know if I thought it was going to be clearly that, like, you can tell, like, here's a finale, and now we're entering into the coda.
Filmed as a season finale and then turned into a series finale.
Yeah.
Didn't know that, so yeah, we get a 5th season finale and a half-hour coda to wrap up the series. And personally, finale-wise, as a finale, I thought it was quite good. I liked it as a finale. As for the coda, however, I loved it.
Ah!
Yeah, let's fight. I'm ready.
Jocelyn, ready to fight? Pretend
don't...
he's your microphone. Pre-show joke.
Jeremy, I validate your feelings on this episode, and I could have cut the coda in half probably. I was happy to just see Burnham and Book in their home in the redwood forest with the peacock deer. I thought that was nice. I didn't need to see anything past that. So, but I guess I'm in it for the relationships in this show, basically, is what I'm saying. And so in that case, this was a very good episode for me.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if that Peacock was like a sign of things to come. I don't know if Paramount Plus is going to merge with Peacock. I figured that Book and Burnham's home would be on top of Paramount Mountain, but
it's interesting.
Very interesting. As far as the episode is concerned, I think it was a good episode of Star Trek Discovery and a good just finale for a show. I think they're able to pull it off as being both. So I'm glad they got word. A lot of shows get canceled and don't get to do this. So the fact that they're able to make it work and add in some finality. And I mean, we don't see in Star Trek a whole lot where you actually see the true future of the characters, usually alternate future, but this has a finality to it of, this is what Book and Burnham's life became. It's a good ending. It's a happy ending, which you also don't get a whole lot of in TV shows these days, it doesn't seem like. So overall, I was pretty satisfied with the episode. I think a little slow start for me. I was worried when the episode started and it was 20 minutes of Maul and Burnham fighting. I was like, oh God. But no, it definitely picked up the pace and it covered a lot of ground and it left a few things to be desired. But for the most part, I think it was a very satisfying finale. When it comes to Star Trek finales, it's definitely at least in the middle, if not the upper middle portion of that. So let's go ahead and get into our pros. And Jocelyn, why don't you let us know what worked for you this week and what you liked about the episode?
I thought visually this episode was so good. I loved it all from the moment Michael got dropped into that very fancy Holiday Inn Express to the botanical gardens to the rocks in the rain situation was very interesting too. And there was a lot of action in it as well. So we had beautiful locale and then also action, which should just basically make for a good episode of most things. So I really liked that. We'll get into what I didn't like about that later on. I just need to mention the part where she's in the hurricane and she's like, "Computer, how much more of this?"
Yeah.
I love that line. I love it so much. And I feel like in my daily life, when I'm encountering something that I've had enough of, I'm just going to be like, "Computer, how much more of this?" I'm just going to look to the sky and say,
I have had
enough
of
of this.
You should just get an Apple Watch and name it Computer so you can do that.
Yes. Perfect. And I'm going to start saying by the progenitors as well. I'm just going to start working
by
on
the
it.
progenitors.
Oh, by the progenitors. Holy progenitors. Get your shit together. Yeah. Nan is back.
Again.
This is
Again?
Yeah, this is reflective of the last chunk of episodes that I
Oh,
finished.
right.
Right? I love that Nan is
Should we
back.
do a little catch up with you, Jocelyn, as
Yeah.
far as what your thoughts are on the last few episodes? Because the last one was where people were sacrificing others for water. Is that correct?
That was the last one that I was
Which
on
is
the show. Yes.
strangely, perhaps maybe a hint at what's to come here in Texas if it doesn't start raining some more. But
That's true, yeah. I meant to talk to you about that. Yeah.
Let us know your thoughts on, I guess, episodes 6 through 9.
Fine.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
All right, we're back.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Shrug. Yeah. Okay. It's a smile and a shrug for me. No, I like it. And you can almost tell, I think they didn't know this was going to be the last season.
Yeah, they did.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And you can kind of tell. And I think knowing that now, which I did not know before a few weeks ago, actually, kind of brings more into perspective some of the reasons maybe why they were introducing new cast members, and maybe they were setting up Grumpy Captain Man to be, I don't know, the next, maybe he was going to be Captain, Burnham was going to be an Admiral. I don't know. It looks like they were it probably would have had a better effect on me if it weren't the last, but I had this feeling of urgency for those episodes, and it didn't feel like the end, I guess. We were building up to a definitive end. But other than that, I thought it was fine. It was good. It was just fine. So that's my thoughts on the previous episodes. I love Saru. I love when he comes in and solves problems, and I love the way he does it. And I like how I think he's such a good balance to Burnham. I like how in one scene he's essentially diplomacy cannot be successful if, both parties are threatening violence, right? And then in the very next scene, Burnham's like, "We should work together." Bam! Sucker punch! I will take you out so fast! I was like, yeah, okay, that tracks. I love these two. I want them to do more things together. Tilly's hair is the best it's ever been. Best it's ever been in this episode. The hair was herring. Not a clump in sight. Every curl defined. No frizz. That's all I ask for. And the wedding was just everything I have been asking for. Way too short. I could have had a 30-minute, at Coda or whatever we're calling it, of the wedding. I wanted that to last a lot longer. But the locale, the venue, the bride, Saru with the shoulder pads, yes. But the bride, I have never seen a veil that connected to the bodice of the dress. groundbreaking. And if I get married again ever, which I will not, I refuse, that would be my dress. In fact, that will be my dress for something. I don't have to get married to have a veil attached to my bodice.
Just go to a wedding with that. Jocelyn.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Go to a wedding dressed as the bride.
Yes.
That's interesting.
That's
I'm sure
comedy.
everyone will like that. Cannot think of a reason not to. Her micro bangs looked freshly microed. Everyone looked amazing. I love Burnham in red lipstick. I love her in a red lip. She looks so good. Yeah, those are my pros. Also, last thing, this is not a neutral zone. This is just more like an aside. Saru seems like he gives the best hugs.
Oh,
The best
yeah.
hugs.
Doug Jones does for sure in real life.
I mean, tall, long ass arms. I bet his hugs are amazing.
Yeah.
There are days when I could
I
really
feel
use
that.
a Saru hug. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, that's what I got. What about you guys?
I just looking up because I'm pretty old, so I always thought like the ending was, I called it a prologue. I would always say like the prologue, but maybe
that
I'm
makes sense to
incorrect.
me.
But I did look up what coda means. So coda is after her apparent death, Captain Janeway's journey to the afterlife, guided by her father, leaves her with suspicions. And then I realized
that
that's
ain't her.
Yeah.
that's the Star Trek episode, Star Trek Voyager episode, Coda,
How could you
Nice.
not remember that? That's where she brings in Maury Povich
as her
to
father.
prove
Oh,
that
yes.
he is not the father.
Right, that he was not
Alien
the
entity
father.
trying to trick her.
Man, the 90s were wild.
Wow, what
were.
a scandal.
Yep. And if memory serves, I bet we gave that a very favorable score. But the actual meaning of coda is a concluding part of a literary or dramatic work, something that serves to round out, conclude, or summarize, and usually has its own interest. So yeah, that definitely fits
Okay.
here.
Yeah, that does make sense.
Now that that's out of the way, I guess we can continue.
You know what? I think a prologue comes before and an
I always
epilogue
get that
is after.
Epilogue. You're exactly
The
right.
epilogue.
Yep.
And I only know this because of all the dragon books I read.
Yes, because
There's
I
always
give
an epilogue.
I always give an epilogue at people's funeral.
Yes.
Yes.
I believe that's a you googly.
Oh, I need to you Google that. Pros. I got a ton of pros, guys, because I came in fired up and ready to fight because I didn't want to
Wow.
hear none of your sass about too many cries. And
Right.
I'm making my heart rate calm down a bit before I
Oof.
continue because I realize we're all on the same team here. We're not fighting. I agree with Jocelyn. This was a beautiful looking episode, maybe the best looking episode of Discovery. And I think the season's been great with visual effects, aside from like the AR wall, which I thought got better throughout the season. I think it was mostly just kind of noticeable in that 2-episode premiere. But even specifically talking about the AR wall, I thought it was used perfectly in this with the design of the progenitor infinity tunnel. Like that's exactly what you have the AR wall there to do. I thought that was used perfectly. You know what it's not used for? A party in one room. That's when it looks
Yeah.
terrible. 4th season Discovery having a party and I don't know, a 20,000 kilometer square foot cargo bay or something. That looks terrible. This is great. You know what you need for a special effects for a scene that takes place in a room? Walls. It's not hard. We got to build walls. And that's where Trump and I agree. You don't need visual effects for a scene that takes place in a room. You need a set. You need
Jerry,
it.
but who's going to pay for it?
We'll make the Cardassians pay for it, Jordan.
You're going to make the AI wall pay for it.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
It's the one that caused the problem in the first place.
I know exactly how to pay for it. You just have to vote for me first, and I'll tell you.
And then I'll tell you.
The Infinity Tunnel, that's exactly what this is built for, and I thought that was really well done. Perfect. And I know it kind of went along and it scared Jordan, but the Infinity Tunnel fight between M, I thought was pretty cool. And for that scene alone, this episode should have been called Labyrinths because that's straight out of the final battle with the Goblin King while Toby's crawling
spoilers.
upside down staircases.
Wow.
Jordan, I'm sorry. I gave you a time, but
You can give me a few years.
Well, we've reached the coda on Labyrinth. You missed it, buddy. I'm going to spoil everything, and now you're not going to like it as much as you would have. And maybe even in Inception, I guess, too, where they're flying, they're different, they're going through different things, but probably some Inception, but mostly Labyrinth, I think, being the more popular of the two films. I liked the Michael Hurricane fight. I thought that was one of my favorite parts of the early Michael's fighting something phase of the episode. I enjoyed the battle, and I using the hurricane winds to time her leap back up to the Infinity Tunnel. I thought that was really fun. I like that. Michael giving Maul her word, not Starfleet, but her personal word. I thought that was a great moment, and one of many scenes that was acted perfectly by Sonequa. Because I also completely trusted Michael in that scene. Like the way that she gave it, like as if I was Maul, I believed her too. Saru. Speaking of action, Saru, enjoy that honeymoon, buddy. Am I right, Jordan? This guy knows what I'm talking about. Action, Saru. Enjoy that honeymoon, buddy. Yes, beautiful ceremony. And what an incredible gown. But enough about Saru. Trina didn't look half bad neither. This is the Saru that I've missed and I love. The action Saru that I adore, which isn't the Uncanny Valley fast running and punching fools. It's the brilliant cerebral action Saru that I love. His mind is his biggest muscle. Sorry, Trina, enjoy that honeymoon. Him gathering info on Tahal just by listening to her speak was awesome. Admiral Vance thought him trying to stop her in one shuttle was a Tahal order, but he got it done. And I love Saru in this. Raynor, I put Raynor in my pros, but he didn't have really a ton to do, but like lead them all. But damn it, God progenitor, damn it. I just love Raynor. And I'm telling you, him and Tilly together is great. And more of that needs to happen. And it seemed like at the ending, no, I'm not accepting that face, Jocelyn.
Jocelyn's camera is frozen, or if that's just her face.
It's just frozen.
Based on that.
They're so good together. He's smiling. They just bounce off each other, right? He needs to be in Starfleet Academy. Am I crazy?
Yeah.
Or did it seem like they were kind of almost alluding to Starfleet Academy could use someone like him in the future?
It seemed like they kind of were.
Oh, thank God. That could have just been in my head because I want it so badly.
No.
Great action pieces. This spore jumping the breen. Now, I love this as an idea, and I love visually how it was carried out. I just assume you need to sneeze, Jocelyn, so I'll ignore that too. This was a huge action set piece and a perfect send-off for the spore drive, because this is like the biggest thing. It's the last time a show is going to have spore drive. So they went big, essentially using the saucer and drive section. It can saucer sep now. Yeah, it can saucer sep now. Maybe they had before. I don't think though. Maybe they mentioned it.
I don't remember.
But essentially splitting it into two and then using both parts of Discovery as a pattern enhancer to send everything in between it to Shakari. I loved it. But also, I do have a controversial con about this as well that I am saving for later. But I really enjoyed all that stuff. I think all along the answer, it just had to be that this power is too great for one person to have. And I love that. And I also truly appreciate that we got a bit of a conference room scene at the end where she tells Stamets and Tilly and Saru and Adira, and we actually get some great respectful conflict between Stamets being baffled because he's like the stand-in for the audience, I think, at that point too. Like, what? After 10 episodes? That's the whole season's point. But then you get fiery Saru barking back like, this is not about your legacy. I'm like, here we go. This is the stuff, man. That's the action Saru I love. Mm-hmm. We got some confrontation, and I love it. I wish the show had more of that, but I was definitely happy to get it here because I love all these characters. Let them not always love each other, because I thought they were all coming from a place that made sense, and I really enjoy that. I love Michael's thought process and sending the power out into the event horizon. And her thinking behind it is like the only ones who should wield that kind of power are the ones that made it in the first place. And she trusts that if it's necessary to be used again, whoever they are that did it before presumably could do it again, but no one else should have that power. I think this is great Trek. We're using science, intelligence, compassion to figure out the problem, but then they're also leaving a little bit unknown for the belief or faith or whatever some higher being or whatever's out there, that the unknown, we don't know. And I like that too. And I think that ties in pretty well for what we've seen Culber go through throughout the season. Because in the end, he's able to pull up an exact shield frequency from the time he joined with Janal. He should not have been able to retain that info. Was there a higher power involved in that? Is there a more scientific reason that they just haven't been able to discover yet? Who knows? But both sides are kind of represented there, and whatever you believe, you can believe. Oh, man. Kovic. I know, not going to be on Jocelyn's pros, maybe not on Jordan's pros, but Kovic is Agent Daniels from Enterprise, the time-traveling temporal agent. Oh, man, what a fun reveal. And one of us...
Justin looks so excited.
Well, the last time all three of us were gathered here was for Whistle Speak, and one of us actually almost predicted this to a T. Let's roll that beautiful bean footage.
Last time on Star Trek
Wars. Pew, pew, pew.
I think Kovic is a time traveler, which explains his 1,000-year-old paper. And maybe he's time travel future man from Enterprise.
It could be. It'd be interesting if they tie that in, I guess.
They won't, though.
Man, look how right one of us was there. That was awesome.
Were you thinking Future Man in Daniels or Future Man in like the dark shadowy guy?
I was thinking dark shadowy guy.
Okay.
But
still close.
Close
Still
enough.
really close.
Close
Really close.
enough.
and the fact that Daniels,
man.
he has Cisco's baseball, so he's clearly a man of good taste.
Man of substance.
Exactly. Love that. And yeah, I'll get to the, I have a lot more of these than Khan, so. Sonequa Martin Green. And I have to say this. Sonequa is everything that's right in this world. If you see how she is just as a human being and as an actor, like, I just love her. And as an old 46-year-old lifelong Trekkie, I say from the bottom of my heart that Star Trek is lucky to have this wonderful actor and human being there representing the franchise that we love. She's the person we as humans should all be striving for. Does she whisper talk too much? Yeah, maybe. Though, honestly, that hasn't been something I've been really picking up on to a distracting degree in quite some time. Occasionally I'll pick up on it, but usually I'm not noticing. And when I am noticing, usually is how powerful her performance has been, like, throughout. She's wonderful. Her acting while coming out from the progenitor HQ and experiencing all of the life's history was incredibly moving and well done. And so was her performance in the Coda, which I want to get to now. Or no, I don't. I want to talk about more pros from the season finale. The bombshell that the progenitors are not the ones that created life. They just found the Colonel's secret recipe. I know that might upset some people, but I love that turn. It's like thinking Elon Musk is some genius and you meet him and find out he never invented anything in his life, but you can have some emeralds from his daddy's mine if you want to make a go at building a company like he did. I can see how some people would see this as a cop-out, but I love that. And again, to show, like, from the viewer's perspective, we get Michael's disappointment, and her reaction is there to stand in for people that were like, what? This is what we were building to all season. I think we get that from both sides too. So I really think it worked well. And then that leads into the Coda, or as I call it, a great book end. I didn't stop for dramatic.
Pause
No, I'm
for
just really
applause,
thirsty.
I guess.
The nut game. I'll wait for applause. I wrote. I can immediately hear the complaints. Of course, it ends with all Michael. It's the Michael Burnham show. It's all tears, feelings, hugs, and Michael. And I think those are two arguments one could make on prior Discovery episodes. But this is the series finale, man. There should be tears, there should be hugs, and Michael Burnham should be the focus because she is the main character of Star Trek Discovery. Just briefly, let's look at the other series finales we've had. Old Good Things. Awesome episode. It's all Picard and has a wonderful sappy poker send-off scene to end it. What You Leave Behind. We get a great sappy closing scene at Vix with everyone sad, saying goodbye just before it's Coda, which is all Cisco. Endgame. We get a sappy Voyager party starting it before turning it into nothing but Janeway story. So much so, there's two of her. Like the Picard finale, which we just saw, it was all Picard. Oh, it was all Good Things. It's all Picard, and it ended with a sappy poker scene. I didn't include the original series or Enterprise because they don't really have finales. But needless to say, every original episode of Star Trek was a Kirk episode. Every single episode. Far more than Michael and Discovery. Should Star Trek Discovery been so Michael heavy and emotional throughout the series? Maybe not. But this finale should be, so you can talk about the other episodes, but not this one when it comes to that. I really enjoyed the season finale aspects of this episode, but like I said, I loved this coda. We get that time jump with what I think are fabulous Starfleet uniforms. Some of the best, maybe the best uniforms on Discovery. Her Admiral uniform is just gorgeous. A few weeks back, I talked about how I don't really expect or need much from this finale, but I would like to see Michael and Book get together somehow. And boy, did I get that big time and was super thankful with how much we got. And maybe I might be in the minority with how much of that was in the coda, but I really enjoyed all of it. And stuff like Book planting his the world root at the sanctuary that he brought the worm to a few seasons ago, and then them building their life on that planet, that's perfect. Also, researching that worm creature's name was Molly. I didn't remember that. Molly. Aww. And Maul. He certainly has the type for things he feels responsible to rescue.
Mm-hmm.
The makeup.
And worms.
I didn't want to go there. The makeup and acting of old Michael and old Book was phenomenal. Mm-hmm. They didn't overdo it. There was no like, I'm old Sonequa. Old Bashir was just like her. She's 60 now, so her face is just melting with prosthetic wrinkles.
Like Yoda, I guess.
Yes, very. And Book, man, there's nothing more cozy, and you guys know this. There's nothing more cozier than the smell of an old book, and I could just sense that, like, just a warm hug.
I like to snuggle up next to an old book.
Yeah. You're feeling me, sister. I love these two actors, and I think they crushed it, and it's everything I could have hoped for the two of them. She even calls the adorable alien little deer Alice, so we get one final callback to Alice in Wonderland from her childhood. I think they did really good subtle callbacks to Discovery as a series. And then wrapping it up, we get Discovery being retrofitted, like literally like retro fitted back to its original design. No bloody A. The wonderful editing that we get from Michael and the captain sharing, then Saru's hand on her shoulder, transitioning to everyone back on the bridge in their youth, saying goodbye. That really got me too. I'm very sentimental. I got a bit of the Lost finale vibes from that. And yes, before anybody chimes in, the Lost finale will be remembered by history as great because it was, and you're all wrong.
Wow.
It's coming back on Netflix in a month. Rewatch it.
Fired.
Apologize later.
All right.
And then finally, Michael takes the original Discovery to its final voyage with Zora, setting course to the Calypso short track, which makes Calypso the official post-credit scene of the Discovery series.
A coda on top of a coda.
That's right.
Jeremy, you are a real coda breaker.
That's right. I have nothing to add to that. That's wonderful. There is also, and lastly, there's also some very specific similarities between this ending and something else that I love outside of track, but I will get into those details later because a fan comment also alludes to this. So I think this was a well done finale to one of Discovery's best seasons with a wonderful coda attached to bring it all together. Like, it could not have been easy to pull off. And honestly, I did not have the highest hopes it would. So just shout out to the writers, Michelle Paradise, and for pulling this off in a short time, not a lot of money. I think they had 3 days to do this.
Whoa.
So it's way more than I had hoped for. And it leaves Discovery in a much warmer spot in my heart than it would have been a year ago even. So it's great. Like, no one talks about Game of Thrones anymore, and I love Game of Thrones for 89% of it, and I'd never want to watch it again. So how it ends is really important. I just have one neutral zone, and that's Book and Maul. I don't think this plot delivered with them as well as it could have. Looking back now, I don't really think there needed to be a personal connection between the two. I think Book could have easily just saw the parallels between Maul and Locke, with himself and Michael being the couriers and getting their second chances. And I think that would have been enough for Book to want to help her with just the kind of person he is. And yeah, that's all I got to say about that. I think, Jordan.
Oh, yes.
Anything left?
No, I think I'd love to talk about my pros, but you mentioned KFC, so I can't not tell this story about KFC because it's one of the most hilarious things I've ever seen on the internet. So I've maybe told this story once before. I can't remember, but the official KFC Twitter account follows the 5 former Spice Girls and 6 men named Herb. And the first person that connected that to the basically the secret blend of 11 herbs and spices got a gift from KFC. And this man who solved it got a painting, one-of-a-kind painting of him riding piggyback on Colonel Sanders.
Oh my God.
It is hilarious. It's one of the greatest things I've ever seen. And yeah. So
this is exactly like the whole theme of Discovery
season.
this year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
where it ties in, Jeremy.
Whoa.
Incredible. The Michael Burnham of Twitter. This guy is a legend. Pros wise, other than delicious chicken from Kentucky, this looked extremely cinematic. Like you mentioned, probably the best looking episode of Discovery. There's really only one shaky spot that I'll mention later, but overall just movie quality stuff, and it looks great. And just kind of like the history of Discovery, this show did not air on CBS, which I remember at the time, this has been 7 years now, was like a big sticking point for people saying like, I'm not going to pay for streaming. This should be on TV. This is a sham. I mean, this is what streaming allows you to do. One, the money that they put into this, the effects, the cinematic quality of it, also the runtime. Your episodes don't have to be 42 minutes. Now, your finales are usually a little longer. This one I think was around an hour and a half, which I think was a good length for the finale. But man, this show has just changed so much from day one. I was just thinking of all the characters and really all the captains that we've gone through in the duration of this show. But from the beginning, this was Michael Burnham's show. And so it's fitting, like you mentioned, the finale. The finales almost always revolve around the show's captain. So I think they did a really good job of tying that up. They gave some other people good send-offs in this episode. I thought Nan gets a pretty nice send-off, much better than her last. Saru, I like the scene where he gets to essentially play poker with the brain Primarch. I thought that was all great. And I don't know how how I feel about the close-up on just their head floating there instead of seeing like part of their body. It's just like the big giant head. Jumping the Breen ship to the galactic barrier was pretty cold-blooded and one of the best uses of saucer separation that you'll see in Star Trek. So a little better than how TNG did it. Saru looks so alien, and he's just an incredible character, and I'll miss him perhaps the most of all when the show is over, because just the way that Doug Jones inhabits that role, the way that he walks, the way that he, kind of like how Leonard Nimoy was Spock.
Mm-hmm.
So Doug Jones is Saru. Like he brings so much to that character and has put so much into that any other actor doing that, it just wouldn't even be close. It made me strangely happy seeing Linus at the wedding. I don't know why. I just saw Linus. Oh, Linus got to go to the wedding. It was like a very sweet moment in this episode. Man, those wedding outfits. My initial note was like, Jocelyn's head is going to explode. Like this looks out of like something out of Lord of the Rings, man. Like,
Yeah.
Yes.
Serena looks like an elven queen, and Saru just owning like that gold, whatever that was. Like they really outdid themselves with the costuming for that wedding. I completely agree with Jocelyn saying that wedding was too short. Old people makeup has come so far in Star Trek. Old Book and Burnham, like you mentioned. I mean, you see old Kirk in the original series all the way up to Pulaski. I mean, they did not have to put makeup on Pulaski like that for all those episodes. Tying up the Calypso loose end was also fantastic, because I thought they were trying to do that earlier this season clumsily, and then it turns out, oh no, this is actually Calypso. Now, will they ever go back to that or address it? I don't know, but they left the door open to do that in the future. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, you guys hit on most all of the pros. I don't want to just beat a dead horse here, but a couple neutral zones. Some of the Burnham Mall fight CGI looked a little rough, especially when they're like spinning through it. That set piece was pretty awesome, though, like you mentioned, Jeremy. Some of the best use of that technology so far. But kudos to them for doing something different within like an alien environment versus just doing a standard fight scene. The final test for the ultimate power in the universe is a small tabletop puzzle. I thought that was a little, I mean, they're just like little plastic see-through pieces on a table.
High school geometry 101.
Pretty much. So
who solved it though? Before, like, did you?
Yeah, I wanted to ask this.
I knew it wasn't going to be just a basic triangle. I don't
Jocelyn,
know if I
you nerd,
done it exactly how Burnham did it, but I knew kind of the basic thing they were going for. So kudos to you, Jocelyn. That's why I would bring you with.
You know, I was going to mention this, Jordan, because I did, after watching it and after making my notes and all that stuff, I was like, all right, let me check out some other reviews. And almost everything I heard, everybody was like, this last puzzle, it was so easy. I had it figured out like that. And every single one of them. And I'm thinking, man, ignorance is bliss, because I was blown away. Like it was exactly what they intended for me.
Make a triangle with the negative space. Like it's easy.
I don't think like that. I mean, I wouldn't have been as stupid as Maul, but it was still
if you
like
had the clue. It makes it a little easier.
It does. And when Mike, I mean, I think I was the exact demographic, because it's like, Maul, you idiot, that's not it. But then I'm like,
are you
what
smarter
is
than
it?
a fifth grader?
And then as Michael starts doing it, I'm like, of course,
triangle within a triangle.
I'm exactly what they intended. I'm the perfect Star Trek fan.
Yeah.
I just think like the secrets to the universe are, the final test is a tabletop puzzle that most people could solve. Is a little, but it wasn't bad. It's just neutral zone, because like I said, I don't know if I would have solved it or not. Yeah. What else did I have? I guess Maul will be joining Section 31. It seems like.
Oh,
I don't know if I like that or not.
She's
I really don't know if I like.
Now?
Yeah. She's good. She gets a segue and everything.
Cool.
Speaking of segues, Daniels, neutral zone. I don't know. I need some time to think on it. It's not bad. I have questions, but I mean, I liked his collection of things. It doesn't hurt anything to me. It doesn't make Enterprise an amazing show all of a sudden, but they had to make him somebody, I suppose. So that's as good of a fit within the Star Trek canon that I can think of. But
so he's from. Sorry, he's from Enterprise.
Yeah, so there's an Enterprise character that travels through time. His name is Agent Daniels, and he's part of the Enterprise crew, you think, but he's actually a time traveler.
Undercover on the Enterprise.
Oh.
Yeah, another reason to watch Enterprise, Jocelyn.
There isn't a list.
We'll make one.
It's not enough for a list.
Yeah, so Section 31, I'm a little nervous about this show because all the people that could potentially be on it, I don't really care to see again. Like, Maul, I don't need to see more of her. Vok, what the heck is that guy's name? Ash Tyler. Don't need to see him again.
Oh,
No, Kailash.
Wait.
Empress Giorgio. Like, okay.
well, did you see, Jordan, where the timeline where the Section 31 takes place?
Where's
Because it takes place in that crazy in between
that?
of the Enterprise C
B,
era.
C era.
A young Rachel
Oh.
Garrett is a
Mhm.
character in this movie.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm more interested
Okay.
in that. It just depends on how much they focus on the Section 31 characters, and I don't know. I just, as a premise, Section 31, the less you see, the better, in my opinion. I think Deep Space Nine handled it really well for the most part. And I think making a whole show about it kind of, I don't know.
It's just a movie, though, so it's not like an ongoing series.
That's right. They did decide to turn
Oh,
it
it
into
is just a
so-
movie.
yeah, that is.
Oh.
They're making some better choices, I think, because I don't think a show would have been great. But that's pretty much it. I mean, we could definitely talk about this a bunch more. We have some fan comments as well as a lengthy list of cons, I'm sure, from Jeremy. But Jocelyn, first, let us know what maybe didn't work for you in this week's episode.
It's not a long list, honestly, but my biggest con from this episode and this season is cranky uncle number 1. Like,
oh, you're
I'm
rainering on Jeremy's parade.
sorry. Oh, Rayner, is that his name? No, Jeremy, come back. You'll stay for
The
this.
building.
Sit down. So, I get, like, I don't get it. I'll just be honest. I've tried. I don't enjoy Ryan, whatever his name is. I
Ryan.
can't even be bothered to remember who
The
he is.
disrespect.
He's just like, he's a character that is an archetype, cranky guy. That's it. That's his whole personality.
Last time I
And
saw him, he was smiling.
He has a
I
personality.
I know that, like, his arc, but is it reasonable that in a show like this that already has such interesting characters that we could investigate further, we bring in someone whose entire character arc is frown to smile? I'm not saying like him as a character in and of itself isn't effective. Like, we've seen this character before. It works well. It brings conflict. People like to see someone who's grumpy and like, be like, oh, okay, I guess so. Anyway, that's his whole personality.
you
I
said
know
the
Jeremy
whole
loves it
Rainer
especially.
character arc. In
That was it.
5
Yeah, that was
seconds.
every line he's had. So, but it just putting that up against the disappearance, which should be investigated, of Detmer and Owo, like, where
Hey.
did they go? What
It's
happened?
been
To the white
we
void.
know. They
I don't-
explained. I'd be
Yeah.
happy to explain. I
Clumsily.
think so. We know we lost Doug Jones for half the season because of Hocus Pocus 2, but also apparently Doug asked. He's 64, so he's like, I got old people things I got to take care of, and
Right.
could I take half a season off from the makeup and stuff? And they're like, absolutely. So I think Rayner is the result of we don't have Doug for half the season, so we'll bring in someone. As for
much like Danny DeVito is Arnold Schwarzenegger's leftovers, as is Rainer to Saru.
much like, and then with Oo and Detmer, both actors had other commitments this season. No one knew it was the final year, so they both
Right.
had another acting opportunity, so they were released to do that.
I
Unfortunately,
see.
like them and Doug, no one knew this was the final season when they made those requests. Everybody assumed they were coming back for another season, so
Yeah.
they kind of made
as did we
do
all.
with what they had, but it was not the writers that made that happen. They were just
Wasn't their first
dealing with
choice.
it. Yeah.
Well, then, as a strategy to make up for deficits in other areas, I stand by what I said. They could have been a lot more creative. We could have I would have even taken like a child genius, as much as Adira is a little bit that. Like, I don't know. If you're going to bring in someone who's like basically annoying, can they at least be colorful in some way or like something we haven't seen before? I don't know. Fine, whatever. I'm over him. I don't have to see him again.
Until
Break the
Starfleet
ankle.
Academy.
Well, I hope not. No, is that official?
No, but if you speak it into existence.
Stop.
Starfleet
I'm
Academy.
gonna. They won't.
Come on, I'm your number one Star Trek fan.
That's true.
Come on,
You're gonna play this
progenitors.
clip back when we cover Star Trek Academy, and
If I had a progenitor's
You're gonna be
power,
right.
I'd make nothing but Rainers.
Anyway, a character I do love and have loved for seasons is Culber. I do love him. I don't particularly enjoy how he seemingly without any explanation became Subspace Rain Man in this episode and was able to come up with numbers out of nowhere. That was just a little bit too convenient and unexplained for me. I thought he and Stamets, like their relationship and Stamets being like, all right, go do what you got to do, boo. I like that, but I don't know. It didn't hit for me. Also, the future ships, like in the Coda, when we saw them, a couple of them look cool, but most of them looked like knockoff AirPods that you like the Bluetooth earbuds that you put in. Most of them looked like that, and I couldn't get that visual out of my head. Yeah, that's
Was that
a ship right
in your
there.
ear,
That's a
Jeremy?
ship, Jeremy. Yeah, there it goes. Whew. There it is. Yeah, the sound a ship makes. Yeah.
Chelsea, Jeremy's sticking ships in his ears again.
Snitch.
Stop doing that, or you'll have to get tubes. Actually, those are my biggest cons. Everything else I'm fine with. Like Maul and Locke, who cares? You know, I said it on previous episodes. Wonder where the clip of that is, Jeremy, of me saying that Book didn't need a familial connection to either of them and that it should be based on the parallels of their relationship and the fact that they'll like do anything for each other and how he wants that with Burnham.
Clip
But it's
unfound.
fine. Yeah, I don't have it here either, actually.
Maybe we get some help from Clippy.
Yeah. Clippy, could you bring up... Anyway, not a lot of cons. I feel that this show in general will age very well. I think people in 10 years are going to rewatch this and be like, I wonder why the IMDb scores are so low. That's what they're going to say. Because the people in the basement on this episode were like, finally, it's over. Oh, the torture. And I'm like, who's holding like a fire to your feet to make you watch this show? I think people disliked it just to dislike it. And I think it has a lot to do with people in this show not looking like a lot of the more popular characters in previous Star Trek shows and them having no concept of what Star Trek actually is at its core or what Gene Roddenberry stood for or most other people involved in Star Trek. So I think they're going to be on the outs and it's going to age very well.
I think if history is any means of measurement, it'll take till the Kurtzman era is over and the next Star Trek era begins.
Yeah.
And then they'll be like, man, this ain't Discovery. I'll tell you that much. Now that was a show.
Oh, that was so. I remember when Discovery was on. Now that was like, they had fight scenes in that show.
Yeah, it's a lot of history repeating itself. The current state of Trek is always kind of hated on by the fans. TNG, Voyager, DS9, they pretty much all went through it.
And in that way, kind of parallels the culture. So I don't know. If you're with it, you're with it, and you get it. You get how good Discovery is. And if you're not, you're not, and that's fine. Whatever. Jordan or Jeremy? Who's next for cons? Jeremy.
Sure.
Yes.
You got any?
Yeah, I got some for sure, but this ain't one of them. And thank you, Joselyn. Rain Man, that's a great nickname for Rainer, and I hope that sticks.
No!
Throw it down, Rain Man. Oh, I love it. Thank you.
I can't get
He'll
it.
appreciate that. Also, I was watching, I watched The Ready Room, which I haven't done all season,
Whoa.
and I could not be more excited to tell you what I heard. Showrunner Michelle Paradise and Sonequa So it was great.
Ooh,
They
maybe I will
surprised
watch it then.
they surprised Sonequa with some past Star Trek people giving her praise and stuff, and it was just so it's just so heartwarming. Like she's so sweet. But they did say where the Calypso came in, that was actually supposed to be the primary storyline for season 6 was Calypso and leading into Calypso. And that's what they were starting to break down until they were told that season 5 is it. You got 3 days to shoot a coda. So they're like, okay, well, we definitely want to fit in Calypso into that then. So interesting to see what that could have been. But still, again, what they ended up doing with what they were given was tremendous. Cons. No salami gens. The female changeling. Because she was, of course, OG progenitor. The progenitor, Salome Jens. And I know, look, she's like 100. But when that progenitor first appeared, my eyes did get a little like Star Trek Discovery'd. And only for it to be a nobody progenitor. And my eye ducts promptly returned to their drier than dust, like that planet they saved in the premiere. But her voice or something, like, I know it's not practical. It's not a huge con, but I there was for a second, I thought, could it be, since we saw her in the premiere? And then, okay, so the loyal Breen guy, who was clearly someone all along that was with Maul, he was just some no one loyal Breen guy?
Yes, they didn't unmask him.
No.
Why did I feel like that was going to happen? I thought I was being silly.
No, it seemed like television rules were showing this is not just a Breen.
Right.
They didn't unmask him. They didn't ungas him. They didn't do anything with him. Weird. He was just some guy that loved Maul. Cool. And Michael gets dropped into a hurricane rock party. This is the perfect opportunity to bring in Shatner's rock monsters from Final Frontier. Finally. I can't believe they didn't go for it. It must have been a budget thing. Maybe just spend all the budget from the coda on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What song would you use for that fight scene?
For the rock monster?
Yeah.
I'd probably just change the lyrics of Rock Lobster from the B-52s. Yeah.
I was thinking rock would be like a hurricane.
Okay. Oh, God, yeah. It makes more sense. It makes more sense. I don't know which one would be cheaper, but they'd go with that. And then lastly, and this isn't a con, but this is the controversial take that I had that had to do with the spore jump. And this is what I'm asking. Should Stamets have died in this episode when he spore jumped the Breen? And I say this because I know it's crazy and no one wants him to die, myself included. But I felt maybe for a series finale, some unforeseen or unfortunate consequences should have happened to solidify the insanely dangerous situation they were all in. And it felt like this isn't just unfounded. It seemed like there were some seeds that were planted for this moment along the season. The first episode had Paul talking about his legacy in that premiere. The spore drive being shut down and replaced after Discovery. This is all stuff that's happening. It's the end of the spore drive. He doesn't know what his legacy is. And then we have in the finale, they set up Hugh. They set him up as being the one in danger, which takes all eyes off Stamets, because I don't know about you, but I was like, oh God, nope, nothing can happen to Culber, please. And then all of a sudden, focusing on Culber, everybody's focusing on Hugh. It's the perfect setup to just gut punch us with that bait and switch. And the solution to spore jump the Breen capital ship and interceptor was thought up on the fly with no time to test or think about the potential consequences. So we get Paul jumping the capital ship, big moment, and it works. Everyone starts celebrating and congratulating each other, but they don't go back to engineering. So when that happened, this is where my heart was like, where's Paul? Like, everybody's celebrating on the bridge. My heart sank, and I thought for sure this happy moment would be interrupted by Adira calling over the comms for a medic or something devastating like that, but it'd be well earned. It'd be like Wrath of Khan. You know, they win the day, but then you hear Scotty asking Kirk to come down, and he notices Spock's not at his post. Again, I don't want I didn't want Paul to die, but there's a part of me that feels, had this happened, it would have truly been cemented as a, oh shit, like this is the finale. The stakes are real. This is the end. Sometimes even for a crew as perfect as this, you hit a no-win scenario and you lose someone. And I thought, as much as I didn't want that to happen, I could see it happening and almost kind of wanted it to, just for the drama.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Okay, I'm going to touch on a few cons. Most of these are kind of carryover cons from just Discovery in general, which is like the random flames just shooting out of a random spot on the bridge every 10 seconds just really gets to me for some reason. Just these, it makes no sense. I don't
There's
know.
Just
always
close that
flames,
hatch.
Sparks and smoke.
I don't mind
Always.
sparks,
You
but
have
the
to have
smoke or the fire just woof. What?
Yeah, unless you got some guy with an electric guitar chained up playing behind those fires, like there's
Exactly.
no reason to have it done. Like just close that hole.
I really don't care to have any investment. I don't care or have an investment rather in any of the secondary characters getting screen time. And that goes to like, I'm not a fan of how the camera angles are used on the bridge. I did not like the shaky cam of like the characters, especially if they're not in a fight scene. And then the super close ups of like just their, part of their face. Like this isn't the good, the bad, and the ugly. And just constantly switching between 10 characters' reaction shots. I've never liked that. It is crazy in the finale, especially since I don't care about any of these characters' reactions. Asha, I don't care. The other girl, don't care. That dude, don't care. Chris, still don't care. They guys had like 10 words to say. Linus, I care a little bit. Reese, I'll give you that one.
Yeah.
Rainer, Tilly, Saru, Burnham. That's all you get. The rest of them, inconsequential. So, lastly, Jocelyn mentioned this. I think you both mentioned this, but Colbert just happens to know the frequency for reasons. Like, there's a lot of stuff I can excuse in Star Trek, but him just guessing a frequency and getting it right without really much of an explanation is just kind of puzzling to me. So, aside from that, not too many negatives, at least not on the first watch through. And I was just happy that they were able to pull off what they did, especially knowing the behind the scenes stuff of them not knowing this was the final season and only having 3 days to do this. It's pretty impressive. It almost makes me wish that they were under the gun a little bit more and maybe they could have. I mean, some people work really well under pressure. I don't know. Maybe they had too much time to plan certain things. I'm not sure, but overall, really enjoyed the finale. Let's get into fan comments and see what the fans on the Facebook console page had to say about this week's episode. We'll kick it off with Will Flora. He said, "I didn't get in last week's review, so let me preface this by saying I thought episode 9 was way better than this. Highlights of the finale: splitting Disco and sending the brain to Never Never Land was pretty sick. Saru bluffing to the Primarch was awesome, and the weird progenitor construct that they found, OMG, great sci-fi stuff. But if I'm being honest, after all of it was pretty flat. I'm supposed to care about the crew members I saw 5 minutes this whole season. Preach, Will. Many of whom weren't even in the past few episodes except for 2 seconds of screen time that they got during a group hug. Perhaps this reveals Disco's problem as a whole. A lot of ambition with less than stellar execution. I'll give this episode a 5 seconds of Reno. And as for the series as a whole, I enjoy it, but I don't think enough to revisit it anytime soon. So 6 missed opportunities will say, so long, Zora, may Disco find its way."
Very good. Thank you, Will. This next one comes from William Jenks. It says, given the situation, they handled the end of the series well. Really, only Next Gen and DS9 had great endings. Is it just me, or did Star Trek watch The Matrix recently? And 2001? And Return of the King? The galactic barrier was one of the dumbest things in the original series. It did not need to get name checked. That is pretty... just going off of William real quick, that is a real tough run for the galactic barrier. We see it in Final Frontier and Season 4 Discovery.
We see it in the episode with, what's the aliens called? The Kelvins, I think. They're heading to the galactic barrier. They take over the ship, turn them into like little... Is that the one they turn them into like the little cubes and crush them up?
Oh, was that the Galactic Barrier too?
I don't know if maybe I'm confusing too,
Okay.
but it's a Rose by Any Other Name or something, that episode. They go
By
to the
Any Other
Galactic
Name.
Barrier.
Yeah.
And I think, doesn't
Oh.
Gary Mitchell and them, don't they cross the Galactic Barrier in the first
Is this right?
episode?
Those salt cubes that they turned people into terrified me.
Oh,
Terrified
yeah, as a kid, me
when
too.
they
Yeah.
crushed it up?
Yeah.
You didn't know which one it was?
Yeah.
You were like, oh, no.
Haunting.
Yeah.
William goes on to say, what was the point of Culber's existential angst this season?
Mm.
All things, yeah, that's basically
Stress.
it. All things considered, the coda at the end of the episode handles things fine. I assume that was part of the reshoot. They did a nice job of aging Michael. That said, they could have ended it with the wedding and reconciliation. This season was a lot more enjoyable than the last couple for me, but it also was almost an entirely different show apart from the character names. That said, I suppose season 3 was a reboot as well.
Point.
And-
Keith,
Oh,
Yes.
I did want to talk a bit about one of the things William said. He mentioned that this was a bit like the Return of the King, which is what I wanted to touch base on.
Mm.
I thought this very much. I had huge Return of the King vibes throughout
Yeah.
this coda.
The wedding for sure. The pillow fight scene at the end. That's the only thing that was missing on that bridge scene with the white light. I just expected them to be jumping on the bed with Burnham and getting in a pillow fight.
that'd have been fun.
I got 1,000 more. Let me just run through them real quick. We have the world root is back in bloom, like the king's tree. Good has returned to the world. We get the wedding. We get a main character with children. Flashing forward,
Uh-huh.
Tilly goes on to be the longest tenured professor in Starfleet history, much like Samwise is the longest tenured mayor of Hobbiton afterwards. We get all the tearful goodbyes between everybody right before Michael / Frodo sails off into the West. And much like Sam, as the final main cast member on screen, Michael returns back to Discovery, sits one last time at the captain's chair, and says, well, I'm back. As we just fade off into black, listening to Annie Lennox, and then the credits come up, and the screen goes dark, and your little nerd heart has never been fuller, and it's just you're crying, and then you look over to your parents who just seem to be embarrassed being with you, and they're like, well, that was long, can we go now? Like, Dad, they're showing the character pictures, there's anime, there's drawings, well, I'll be in the car. It brings back just some wonderful times in my life. But yeah, I definitely, all I'm saying is it's definitely time to rewatch my 4K extended versions of Lord of the Rings. Back to you, Jocelyn.
Okay, wait, I have one question before Keith Danforth speaks to us through me. Burnham's going to go back, right?
Yes.
She's taking a trip, and then she's coming back.
I have a feeling
Okay.
because I think she's dropping off.
She's dropping off.
She's just dropping off the kids at college, right?
Yeah, maybe even her
Directive.
son or some other ship was probably there to pick her up. But yeah, the
Okay.
red directive was to drop off Discovery in this location, and no one else really knows much beyond that. But yeah, she's definitely returning.
Thank God. I was not going to be able to handle it if she wasn't, so I needed some confirmation. Okay, let's do Keith. Keith Danforth says, I missed being able to comment on much of this season due to work, so I'll summarize the finale this season and this show itself. The finale was decent, but it seemed to massively sidestep much of what came before it to get to this place. Burnham and Maul finally make it inside of the great big procedurally generated universe thing and spend much of the episode fighting each other as usual before finally reaching the last puzzle and taking their predictable turns at failing and succeeding at it. It felt very underwhelming to watch, making the action outside with Discovery fighting the Breen and our Kelpian Saru coming in clutch against more Breen felt more interesting to watch. But then Burnham decides, nah, I'm out, and we're colony dropping this into a black hole. And I kind of had the same face as Stamets an entire season leading up to this, and she just does a Janeway on it. Because, man, this season actually was a really good season, the best Discovery has ever done, and that was simply because they relied less on anime main character bullshit and more on actual Trek situations, dilemmas, and character interactions. The anti-villains were enjoyable, the real villains were enjoyable, the plot actually dug back into the franchise's canon and expanded it. Writers wrote, producers produced, they actually made a season of Star Trek, and now it's over. Which brings me to the show overall. I oft joke about how Discovery was the Michael Burnham show featuring Star Trek because unfortunately that was how the first 3 seasons were written, and to a lesser extent 4 and 5. They were so preoccupied with executing their weird fan fiction that they never stopped to really consider any of the other characters or plot. Nevertheless, they really did have some good ideas and even an interesting starship mechanic that fits in the world of Trek with the spore drive, but it just didn't fit in the TOS era of the timeline. I continue to maintain, had this show began in the 32nd century, it would have been much better and more agile in coming up with some of the really good far future Federation ideas it did. Minus the burn, that was entirely stupid, and they could have done a better climate change metaphor. 7 wax coffees out of 10 red directives.
Chris Roa says, well, it's a wrap. Honestly, I had low expectations for the final installment, so I ended up being pleasantly surprised and entertained. First, the cons. The outrageous, gigantic story plot of the Progenitor's tech was a big miss for me. There have been far too many Fate of the Universe storylines in Disco and Picard for my liking. In this episode, the fight scene with Maul was way too CGI and poorly done in my opinion. In the neutral zone, Saru's ability to divert the brain away seemed a little far-fetched, almost as far-fetched as the spore drive being used as a weapon, or Culber's randomness of knowing the right frequency without access to memories. A lot just didn't sit right for me. Ending was a little too drawn out for me as well. On the pros, though, the cast of Disco are tremendously talented, the cinematography was movie-like qualities, and for all the criticisms I have given Star Trek, the Burnham Booker Chronicles, Sonequa has done a wonderful job growing into a well-rounded captain and leader. And I will never forget that though Disco hasn't been my favorite, in fact it might be closer to the bottom of my personal series rankings, it propelled us to the current state of modern Trek with Strange New Worlds, Lower Decks, and Section 31 movie, and a future of unknown awesomeness. For that, I will be eternally grateful. The episode I give 8 abandoned Zoras out of 10, and the season a 6 overblown plot lines out of 10.
Well said, everybody. And Jordan, lastly, we do have an audio transmission from one Ken Holtzhauser's gentleman cartoonist. I will play this. I will let you guys know it is longer than clips we normally play from people. It runs about 7.5 minutes. But I will have it time stamped if you guys want to skip. But I would listen because Ken has some really interesting things to say here. So we'll play that and then we'll come back.
Greetings to the Star Trek Council. This is gentleman cartoonist Ken Holtzhouser, and I wanted to drop a quick line to say I've been enjoying the episodes as we've been discussing Season 5, the final season of Star Trek Discovery. Star Trek Discovery is, well, I'm just going to have to lay my cards on the table. It's not a favorite of mine. I appreciate the ambition of the series. I like the fact that it opened the door for a lot of new Star Trek, and I liked some of the ideas for certain. I will say that I liked Sonequa Martin Green as the lead, Michael Burnham, a great deal. I thought that she was a good choice to be the new lead. I had seen her on The Walking Dead. I knew she was all right. There's a lot of strong actors on the show. It's the format of the show that I think is my big concern. And it's because I think that for me, Star Trek gelled in my head as to what Star Trek properly is with Season 3 of Picard. There's a scene towards the end of the season where all of our main cast members are gathered together around a table and everybody is throwing out ideas on the universe-shaking problem that they're facing. And I realized that was quintessential Star Trek to me. It is a group of professionals sat around a table, problem solving, each one bringing their own unique background and expertise to the problem. It's working together to make things better. It's solving problems. Star Trek Discovery comes into the Star Trek universe with an entirely different point of view. At first, the series was very much, instead of following a starship, you were following a single career of Michael Burnham and the trials and tribulations she went to, from one ship to another, from one universe-shaking crisis to another, slowly growing, slowly learning what it means to be a good captain, what it means to be a leader. This is rich, fertile ground series, and it is a real departure for Star Trek, I will admit. It's very good that way. However, that's not what I'm looking for in Star Trek. I want that ensemble. We come to the series finale, in which Michael Burnham, all by herself, is the one that has to save the day again. Every season of Discovery has moved into that same area where she is by herself the Deus Ex Machina that is going to save the entirety of the galaxy. And after a lot of this, I just felt the wasted opportunity. Anthony Rapp, Doug Jones, Wilson Cruz, Mary Wiseman. There are great characters in this series played by great actors who get crumbs versus Michael Burnham being the focus. And yes, the show is created that way. It's just not what I want from my Star Trek. I wanted her to lean on the others. I wanted an episode. Let's do an episode that's all about, say, Wilson Cruz and Anthony Rapp. Wonderful actors, brought a lot to characters who didn't have a lot to do. It's frustrating. Doug Jones's Saru is a standout. He is clearly the Spock / Data / Odo outsider looking in on human beings. And he's tremendous, and he grows a great deal. He seems to be the only other character that really gets some screen time. And it's largely because we, the audience, like him as much as we do. So our finale ends with Michael Burnham essentially being given the keys to the universe and said, here, you're God. Do what you need to do. We've given you unbelievable technology. And in a very Star Trek turn of events, says, this is too much for anybody to have. We should destroy it. Classic Star Trek all the way. But then we get the Lord of the Rings style, 15 different endings. Every so often I'll say, okay, that's how we're going to end the... Nope, here we go. Okay. Beach on Sunset, they love each other. Okay, this is the ending. No. Oh, we just found out that he's a random character who appeared in like 8 episodes of Star Trek Enterprise. Okay, fine, whatever. That's where we're going to end it. No. Oh, she's got a son. No. No, she's going to give him advice for... No. I think it is unique and important that the series ends with Michael Burnham all by herself monologuing to a computer on the bridge of the USS Discovery, because it's always all about her, and it's never been to the benefit of any of the others. And again, this is not a condemnation of Sonequa Martin Green or even the character of Michael Burnham, but there needed to be more collaboration to get the most out of this cast of characters. You could argue that Captain Kirk has been that character as well, that he has been, I'm the hero and it's all up to me. But he never goes anywhere without his besties, and that's always how the situation resolved. It's all of these people coming together to be better than the individual. We need that more than ever in the 21st century. We have too many people right now that are screaming from the rooftops, I'm the only person that can save you. I am the solution. Only listen to me. Only get your news from me, in a very Orwellian kind of a future that we're in right now. We need that reminder that it is only when we're working together as a team that we're ever worthwhile. As individuals, human beings suck. As humanity, we're beautiful. Live long and prosper, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, it's time to rate this week's finale of Discovery for the last time. We will be rating Star Trek Discovery. Jocelyn, no pressure. What do you give the finale episode?
I mean, I want to give it a 10 just because it's the last one, and I'm like, blah, blah, 10. But if I'm being more objective, I would give it an 8. Disco absolutely 8 with that old lady captain makeup they gave Burnham.
Hell yeah.
All right, Jeremy.
I agree. I'm going to give this one an 8 also. 8. I'm glad you're here with me, Jordan and Jocelyn, here at the end of all things.
Why do you keep trying to make me cry for?
It's Discovery. It's the last Discovery, Jocelyn.
I am right there with you guys. I give it an 8 as well. The fans give this a 7.7, bringing the overall score to a 7.9.
Hell yeah.
We did it.
So, very solid ending to Discovery. Who saw that coming? Speaking of Discovery, Jocelyn, we got to make up our own fan fiction this week because there is no next time on. So what do you think happens next time on Discovery?
Oh, God. I think next time on Discovery, Burnham and her offspring reach the place they were going.
Okay.
Where's that again? Calypso, which sounds like a circus. It is not a circus, though. It's not a fun, like, musical circus thing. It is, in fact, an ambush. And they get captured. And Book has to get the whole crew together and come rescue her. And it's Discovery Surprise Season 6? Season 6, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do it. Ryan sadly dies on the way, though, to
his home
rescue
planet.
people, so he won't be in it. But yeah,
Who's Ryan? Is that another character that they just
the
added?
cranky
season
guy,
6?
the cranky
Rain
uncle,
Man.
cranky uncle. Yeah,
The Rain Man. Just
Jeremy, I think I can guess where this is going, but what happens next time on Star Trek Discovery?
Jordan, I would be shocked if you guessed this one. We find out that the reason Geordi LaForge got his first contacts in the aptly titled Star Trek First Contact is because the morning before the movie starts, Agent Daniels popped in and stole his visor
Oh, wow.
with
Exactly
Rayner,
what I
because
thought you were gonna
Rayner
say.
is the new temporal agent and head of a new show, Star Trek Rayner, or Rain Man, Rainmaker. We could work on it.
I'll accept Rainer Man. Nothing else.
Okay, yeah. let's hope not. In my next time on, Burnham is visited by a familiar face. It's Q. He's been watching Michael and offers a place amongst the Qs within the continuum. And not just a place, she's going to be in charge of the whole dang thing.
Jordan, does she turn it down?
She does.
Yes.
Oh, that pretty much wraps up our coverage of Discovery for now. But before we get out of here, we have a podcast update from Jeremy himself. Let the fans know what they can expect from Star Trek Wars in the coming months, Jeremy.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, everybody, for listening this season. And big thanks to you guys, Jordan and Jocelyn, for hosting Discovery all these long years. Really appreciate you guys. Coming up next in our season 10 run, we have some fun specials on the horizon. Connor and I will be back in studio doing more of the Star Trek specials we started the year with. Chelsea and I will continue our Next in Queue series where we randomly rewatch and discuss an episode as voted on by you guys at home. But the main event we're focusing on the rest of this year is the often alluded to special we're calling Temporal Investigations. And what a time to do it, coming off of this Discovery finale. Temporal Investigations is a new reoccurring series for Star Trek Wars. This 10-episode event has our very own Jordan traveling back in time to discuss his 10 favorite episodes that we reviewed before he had become part of the podcast. So the series will involve some fun time traveling hijinks, combining audio from those early days of Star Trek Wars, revisiting and talking about these classic Trek episodes for the first time with Jordan, and also adding new audio drama material like we did for our 8th anniversary special, making something familiar but way different than anything we've ever done here before at Star Trek Wars. So I'm super excited for that. Back to you, Jordan.
I'm excited as well. I go by many names. There are some who call me Tim, but excited to go through. I mean, we couldn't have planned our spinoff show any better, knowing what was coming on Discovery, and we didn't. So going back, Temporal Investigations, getting a chance to review episodes you haven't reviewed probably in a decade, Jeremy.
Yeah, it's been a decade because it's all first season and first half of second season. So 10 years.
Wow.
So we've handpicked some episodes to go back and review, and definitely looking forward to it. Thank you all.
Jordan.
Yeah.
This is crazy. We've done it. This is our 10th anniversary. When we started, no signs of new Star Trek on the horizon at all. We were just doing this. It was like a 7-year run to cover the original.
It's a short
5.
7-year run.
Short 7. 3 years into that, Discovery started. We've been doing Discovery 7 out of our 10 years at Star Trek Wars.
Whoa.
That's insane.
That is insane. It's very weird as far as Discovery being on as long as it has for just a 5-season run at this point. It's crazy. But I mean, the podcast could have easily ended after reviewing the 5 live action shows that existed. And now we've got, we're up to 8 live action shows and everything in between. So as far as new content for, future Star Trek, Strange New Worlds, likely the next thing on the horizon, hopefully early next year. So looking forward to that. Thank you both for being on the show and guesting throughout the year. I really appreciate you guys, and for the council page for your feedback, especially Allie. I know it's hard to comment every week, but just kind of hear where everyone's coming from and have that community. So you can join us over on Facebook. Just search for the Star Trek Wars Council page and we'll pop right up. But we will be back in the future. Podcast, it has been fun, but due to a red directive, I must store this episode in the cloud, but I will be back someday. Until then, computer and program.
All of your fears will pass away, safe in my arms.
We did it.
I'm only crying because it's what Discovery would want me to do.
Thanks for listening to Star Trek Wars.